Miss Joni. This will be my third video lecture. Today is July 5. It's a Tuesday afternoon. So we will continue our discussion on the basic legal principles. No, we are still on the legal principles. Then after that, we will follow with the discussion on specific provisions of law, which you might encounter later on in your career as a tourism professional. Now, again, I'd like to say to you or inform you that aside from the video lectures that we're having this summer, you still have to view again, you still have to view anew the different video lectures that we had last semester as a supplement to what we are having today or this summer. No? So it's not only the video lectures that I'm having specifically for you this summer, but you also have to view again the different video lectures that you have had in the past during the last semester. Okay, we will continue now with our discussion on the basic legal principles. And yesterday we talked about the main sources. You know, although it's just not, it was just a brief discussion on the main sources of Philippine laws. No? These are the main sources, meaning it's not only the RA, mga laws that you know, there are other sources where uh, they are also considered as laws. No? Of course, the first one is what we call the Constitution, the Philippine Constitution, and the one that we are using is the 1987 Constitution. No? So for the Constitution, of course, we said that it's the basic and fundamental law of the land. I hope that you understand the meaning of this. When we say the basic and fundamental law, this one, the Constitution, when we speak of the basic and fundamental law, meaning it is the supreme or primary law. Supreme or primary law, meaning to say all other laws, no, all other laws that will be enacted or created by Congress will have to follow the tenets or the provisions in our Constitution because it is supreme. Supreme meaning it is over and above any other laws. No? You understand, Ms. Johnny? It is supreme because it is the number one law, no? Number one law that every citizen should know. Supreme, primary law. Okay? The next source, when I say these are the main sources, meaning there may be others, uh, but these are the major or the most common sources of laws. No? So we could not only find the law in the Constitution, we could also find that in the statutes. So what are statutes? Of course, the statutes are the legislative enactments. No? Legislative enactments. No? In simple terms, if we call it the legislative enactments, meaning if you still remember the RA, what does RA stand for? Republic Act. And once a law is denominated as RA, I will write it down, Republic Act, meaning this is a law, no? And a law that was passed by which body? Passed by which body, Miss Jovi? Passed by Congress, no? Passed by Congress, no? And you know that Congress is the legislative body in our country, the lawmaking body in our country. Now I'm just talking about the main sources, no? So you could not only find the law in the Constitution, even in statutes. Now the statutes are legislative enactments, meaning these are republic acts that were passed by Congress. Okay. The third source of laws, this is just a review. No, we have a short or brief discussion about this yesterday. So you just, if you want to have an overview again, so you review the video lecture that I had yesterday. No? So the third source of Philippine laws would be what we call treaties. No? Treaties and conventions. No? What are treaties again? You know, you still remember what are treaties or conventions? These are agreements. No? Agreements entered into by countries, including ours, entered into by countries. No? Meaning it will be, say for instance, if, say for instance, the ASEAN Charter, no? ASEAN Charter. This is the charter that governs the ASEAN region, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. No, this is a kind of a convention or a treaty. No, these are agreements. So, another one, another example is the very popular UNCLOS. No, United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. No, this one was a very old agreement, 1982. No? December 10, 1982 agreement. So remember that it's not only the Constitution, it's not only the statutes where we could find specific provisions of laws, but we could also find that in treaties and conventions entered into by the Philippines with another country, with another country, with another country, not law, with another country or other countries. It may be several countries, other countries. No? Remember that if we are talking about treaties and conventions, these are covered by what we call international law. Of course, if you are a tourism student, you may want to read something about international law. When we talk of international law, these are uh, laws involving different countries. And one of that will be on treaties and conventions. Okay? So, this is another source of Philippine law. By the way, when our country enters into a treaty with another country or other countries, we are bound by the provisions of that agreement or that convention because why? We become a signatory, signatory to the treaty. No? We become already a signatory to the treaty or convention. Understand? Treaty or convention. And all other provisions in that treaty and convention, our government should honor them. No? We should honor them. Okay, another source of Philippine law would be what we call, well, I mentioned this already. This is another major source of Philippine law. We call that the jurisprudence. No? What is jurisprudence again? When we talk of jurisprudence, we are talking about judicial decisions. No? So in short, we do not only get the law, the applicability of certain laws, but even judicial decisions made by courts. These are also take the form of a law. No, they partake of the nature of a law, nature of a law. So jurisprudence or judicial decisions will also be a source of Philippine law. Why? Why is this a source of Philippine law? Because this jurisprudence they interpret specific laws. No? They interpret specific laws. No? So, in short, if you want a clearer discussion on a certain law, you may get hold of a certain jurisprudence tackling the issues of that particular law. And this jurisprudence, of course, because of this term judicial, these are what? Interpreted by our courts, no? And they take the form of a law also, your jurisprudence. Okay? The fifth one, of course, if we have the law or statutes, what is needed as a supplement for laws or statutes? No? We have the RA, for instance. RA is a law, right? Republic Act. Now, to discuss this at more detail, we have what we call administrative issuance. Administrative orders and issuances. What do we mean by this? Now, supposing that Congress enacted a law, say for instance, un, um, sexual harassment law, no? The sexual harassment. No? If we have this sexual harassment law, I forgot the number of sexual harassment. Of course, this law, that particular law, will have to be what? Spelled out. No? Spelled out through what we call the IRR. What are IRR again? Miss Joni, if you still remember what I've been lecturing before, IRR would stand for implementing rules and regulations. No, this is the implementing rules and regulations. These are administrative issuances or orders. Now, these laws, for instance, another law would be the one that I've given you as a RA 9225. Say, for instance, the Dual Citizenship Act 9225. Now, this law, although it has been enacted as a law by Congress, it needs what we call the IRR, or implementing rules and regulations. You cannot implement the law without the IRR. No? So remember that. And the IRR is made by administrative bodies, meaning the one who will implement the law, say for instance, it's the Department of Justice that will implement the law, or the DFA, for instance, Department of Foreign Affairs, they will be the ones who will craft the IRR, or the implementing rules and regulations. Clear? So far? And then, of course, the sixth source of laws or of Philippine laws would be legislative rules. No? What we call legislative rules. No? Legislative rules. Now, what are legislative rules? Well, you know very well that it's the legislative body of our government that drafts and enacts laws. Right? They are the ones that drafts and enacts laws. So it means that when they do this, when they draft a certain law or they enact a certain law, they are bound by certain rules also, bound by certain rules. It's not only a matter of creating the law, but you are bound by certain rules which take the form of legislative rules and issuances. Here, so far, Ms. Johnny? So this is also a source of Philippine law. Okay? And then we move on. Another one would be 6. This one will be the 7th. So you remember all this, Miss Johnny, because these are all laws. No? These are the major or main sources of laws in our country. Of course, the number 7 will be presidential issuances. Presidential. Well, by the term alone, presidential orders and issuances. Example of this would be the executive orders. No, you still remember that executive orders issued by the president. They also because of this executive order, it has a mandate, no, to be followed by uh, the country or society or by the government. No, executive orders. Example of that, no, will be the presidential orders and issuances. It could be that it will uh, deal on a national issue. No, it could deal a national issue, or it could be regional, regional issue, or municipal issue. But these are, say for instance, the president would like to issue an executive order declaring November 5, say for instance, as a holiday in Pangasinan. So it will require an executive order, and that takes also in the form of a law. By the name alone, presidential, of course, it is the chief executive or the president that issues executive orders. Okay? Then finally, the one that I will discuss would be what we call municipal, no? Municipal um, orders. No? It will be municipal orders or issuances. No? Issuances. It's not only municipal, but even city or provincial. But this one is more, the nomenclature used was more of a uh, generic, no? Generic municipal, meaning at the local level, no? Usually, political subdivisions like provinces. What are the political subdivisions again? Provinces, cities, municipalities, barangays. They issue ordinances, no? They issue ordinances or other orders for purposes of ensuring what we call peace and order. No? When we talk of peace and order, what kind of power is that by the government? We call that the police power of government. Also, they issue orders and issuances with respect to taxation. No? Diba? Sila rin ang nag-ano, for taxation purposes to generate revenues for the particular municipality or city or barangay. They issue municipal ordinances or orders in order for them to generate what we call the needed revenues. Okay? So much for that, for the main sources of Philippine law. No? So these are all laws which you should remember. No? It's not only the Constitution, it's not only the statutes, there are presidential issuances, administrative orders and issuances, etc. And these are all sources of Philippine law. Yesterday, I talked about the three inherent powers of the government. Right? I also talked about this, the three inherent powers of the government. Of course, the first one is what I said, police power. Right? What is police power? Well, police power is for the purpose of regulating the behavior and activities of people. Behavior of people, activities, and also treatment of property. No? Treatment of rights and properties. No? So anything, no, anything that calls for, yung police na word is for purposes of regulating. I think you understand what it means to regulate. Regulate meaning to, say for instance, when we say regulate, what do you mean by regulate? Uh, we do not only regulate behavior, activities, treatment of rights, and others. No? So when we say regulate, of course, we have to define this. When we speak of regulating, no? When we speak of regulating, we speak of to conform to appropriate behavior. To conform to appropriate behavior in accordance with law. No, it's always the law in accordance with law. No, meaning the guiding principle here will be the law. There should be the law wherein we have to enforce, to ensure, or to exercise what we call police power. Of course, the second inherent power of the government is what we call, still remember that, Ms. Tony? I discussed this yesterday. The power of eminent domain. No? Eminent domain. This one, this power of government is they could take private property. No? Take private property for what purpose? For public use. For public use. No? Upon payment of what we call, what's that, Miss Johnny? Just compensation. Ah? So in short, our right to own private property is not absolute. This one, akala mo yung property mo. Say for instance, you have a piece of land. Now, in that piece of land, they would like to broaden or they would like to enlarge the highway. So a part of your property will be taken by the government by the exercise of the power of eminent domain. So they will take that, a part of your property, for public use. And of course, they cannot just take that. You have to be paid what we call just compensation. The government cannot just take your property without paying you something. This just compensation would refer to the value not taken, value of the property taken. And then finally, the third inherent power of government is what we call the power of, what's that, Ms. Jongi, again? The power of taxation. No? Taxation. When we talk of taxation, of course, we talk about collection of taxes, BAR. No? And these taxes, they are considered as the lifeblood of the government. No? The government cannot function without levying taxes. No? Because government machinery will depend upon the taxes that will be collected to fund, no? To fund the activities of government. No? Kaya magbayad tayo ng fund the activities of government. Kaya magbayad tayo ng ating fees. Because that one, if the government has no money, if the government cannot collect taxes, then this government will fall down. Okay? So much for today. Miss Johnny, now your assignment for today would be, I'd like you to view a certain slide share. I will be taking it down. No? You have to view, then read, and then, of course, summarize. No? This will be your assignment number 3. No? I think I have given you assignment number 1 and 2 already. So this is assignment number 3. So here you have to view, no? I will be giving you the title, Overview of the Philippine Legal System. Overview of the Philippine Legal System. So you have to view this via YouTube, and this is by SlideShare. No, SlideShare. Or if you want the specific citation, www.slideshare.net. No? So you view this, and then you read whatever statements are there. Then you need to summarize. No? When I say summarize, you have to summarize it in your own words. Okay? So I think so much for that. I have given you your assignment for today. Good afternoon.